In previous videos, we have covered the linear regression algorithm and some of the statistics as well. So if you have not seen those videos, please watch that and then come to this video. Okay. So today's our agenda is to understand what is logistic regression and try to implement a small model out of it. Okay. So let's get started. So if you have seen in linear regression, our basic function was y is equal to m1 or capital M capital X plus C. Okay, now here if we have two attributes, then it will be represented as m1 x1 plus m2 x2 and so on. Okay, so I hope what this capital M represents. Similarly, this was our linear regression function, right? Our logistic regression function will be y is equal to 1 by 1 plus e power minus x. Okay, don't worry why this function, what, and etc. Okay, so yeah, let me write this again. E plus 1 by e plus e power minus x. So here our x is nothing but our complete function. Okay, so this complete function will come under our this place. Suppose we have three attributes, then our this capital X will become 1 by 1 plus e power minus of m1 x1 plus m2 x2 plus our bias, or we can say the constant value. Okay, so this function is nothing but, this function is known as sigmoid function. Now what is logistic regression? Okay, so when we say if your age is 18 plus, you are a major. If 18 or 18 minus, I say you are a minor. So I have here an output variable to predict, or I can say a class to categorize, saying whether the given candidate is a major or minor. Okay, so here I am considering a feature called age. Similarly, in some other okay, so example which we are going to consider is diabetes. So there we have suppose 10 attributes, and based on those 10 attributes, I need to say whether it is a diabetic person or it is a non-diabetic person. So here we are basically classifying whether it belongs to class A, that is non-diabetic, or whether that input belongs to class B, that is a diabetic. Okay, so here we are basically identifying which class out of the two the input belongs to. Okay, so we are doing a categorization, so we can say classifying. So the you gave me one input, I am classifying it into one of the class or one of the category out of the two. Okay, so that is our logistic regression, what it does. Okay, now you can say if suppose I have three classes. Okay, suppose male, female, transgender, three classes. Now I need to categorize it into one of the three classes. So can I use logistic regression? Yes. So that is like instead of 2 we have 3 classes, instead of 2 we have 10 classes. So we can do this for any number of classes, but it is not recommended for using for any use case which is having more than 2 classes. Now if you want to do it for 10 classes, I can simply say okay, based on these features I can categorize it into a first feature or the second feature, that is in the okay. So let me take an example. I hope this two categories thing is clear for you. Now I want to use logistic regression where I have 10 classes, or I can say 10 categories in the output. In that case what I will do is, based on first I will identify whether it belongs to first 5 classes or second 5 classes. Okay, so what happens is, let me take an example. Okay, suppose we have 10 sections. Okay, there is a student coming for an admission and we have 10 sections. So for first 5 sections we are using it for girls, second 5 sections we are using for boy. Okay, now let's say I have seen that the child who is coming is a boy. So I have said okay, first 5 classes I can neglect it, so this guy definitely belongs to the next 5 sections. So out of that next 5 sections I am saying okay, this boy's percentage is lying between this range, that why he will be in the 7th section. So first I have classified, or I have removed the classes which cannot suit to that guy based on one of the feature. Similarly I am going to filter out the classes, and I can finally say that okay, 7th section is the section in which this student is going to join. So that's how I can finally come to a conclusion saying that input belongs to this class. So that's how we can use logistic regression for 2 classes or multiple classes, but it is recommended that we go for only 2 classes. Now for every algorithm we have one basic function. So for logistic regression, this was our basic function, and you can see the graph of this is something like this. Okay, this is my upper limit, this is my lower limit, and let's say this is my 0. Okay, this is my x-axis, and this is my 0.5 value, and this is my 1 value. Okay, sorry. Okay, now my graph is something like S. Okay, and this is the 0.5, I can say. Okay, so if a point belongs to here, okay, I can say it belongs to 0.5. So if you can see 0 to 1, it is basically a sigmoid function's value will range from 0 to 1. So if it is a max, right? If suppose max means what, if you substitute x as 1, you will get the maximum value as, I mean, this output of this, right? If you say it is okay, let me take an example. Let us take x as 1. Okay, so that is just an assumption. Just to see, okay, what is the maximum value or what is the minimum value of y. So if I put x as 1, so what will happen? 1 by 1 plus e power minus means something like point something. Okay, so it's like not a negative value, and it is not greater than 1 because the denominator is greater than 1. And if I put suppose x as 0, so in that case 1 by 1 is 1. So whatever value of x you keep, okay, the maximum value that this function is going to reach is 1, and the minimum possible value that is going to reach is 0. Okay, so suppose I have an output which is on this, okay, which is lying in this area. So I can say it is greater than 0.5, so it belongs to class 1. Okay, because I have class 0 and class 1. So based on whatever the output of this function, right, this sigmoid function, based on that, suppose my class is lying here, so I can say the value of this is less than 0.5, so it belongs to class 0. So that's how I am going to find out the output of this function, and then I am going to categorize whether that input belongs to class 0 or class 1. Okay, so yeah, that's how my sigmoid function, or I can say logistic regression function, will work. Now for every function there will be a cost function. Okay, so cost function, what it does is, if suppose I predicted okay, so suppose there's an input 1, okay, input 1 whose output should be class 1, okay, but I predicted it as a class 0. So here class 1 means the output is 1, but the predicted value is 0. So here I am going to penalize, or I can say my cost function value will be infinite, saying that it is a 0, you should get back, your decision was wrong. And if my decision is correct, in that case cost function value will be 0, saying that whatever I have predicted, it is correct, so I am not going to face any kind of penalty. Now this cost function will have a formula. Based on this cost function and based on this sigmoid function, I am going to make my model learn, okay, and by tweaking some of the hyperparameters. But the two main focus is like my actual function and my cost function. So based on this, my model will learn and we are going to predict it. So in a minute we are going to implement it. Now before going to implement, which will not take more than 5 minutes, just want to show you one small concept. Okay, now my cost function is for all the inputs that are undergoing training, right? So it can be like error 1 plus error 2, it's like in a layman's term, error 3 plus error 4 plus error of the nth attribute as well. Okay, so if I so my cost function, how it works is, cost function is nothing but the difference of actual value, or I can say true value, minus predicted value. Correct? So this is what the difference, and that is the cost that I have to pay for predicting in the incorrect manner. So we have in our sigmoid function, or I can say in our logistic regression, our cost function is derived in this format, saying my cost function will be minus of log of p of x. Okay, and this formula I will use when I have predicted, or I can say when my y value is equal to 1. Okay, this I have predicted. Now if minus log of 1 minus p of x. This will be my cost function when my y value is 0. Okay, so I hope this is okay. Handwriting is kind of weird, but I hope this you are able to understand. So what happens when y is equal to 1? Okay, so if let me say that, so I have written it again so as to take an example and you can get it clearly. First, suppose we have predicted y is equal to 1. Okay, in y is equal to 1 we have two cases, that we have correctly predicted and we have wrongly or negatively predicted. Okay, so if we have correctly predicted means what, that p of x, that is the actual value, is also 1. Okay, so we have to use y equal to 1 means our cost function will be minus log of p of x. So this is the one we are going to use whenever we are predicting y is equal to 1. So if I have predicted correctly means what, minus log of p of x means what, here is 1 because we have actual value is also 1. So log of 1 is nothing but 0, correct? So here my cost function value becomes 0, that is I need not to pay anything or no penalty is applied on me. Similarly, if I write minus log of, so here I have predicted 1 which is a wrong or a negative thing. So the correct value of p of value is 0. Now what is the log of 0 value? Log of 0 is nothing but our infinity. Okay, so this was our cost function. Now you see, if I am wrongly predicting, this is the fine I need to pay, and if I am correctly predicting, this is the fine I have to pay. Now in case I have predicted y is equal to 0, so if I am correctly predicting, okay, here my cost function will be minus log of 1 minus p of x. So if I am correctly predicting means what, the p of x value is 0, so in that case what will become, minus log of 1. Okay, so here I have correctly predicted and I have my log value is 0, so my cost function value will become 0. It means that if I correctly predicted, I have to pay nothing. Similarly, if I have wrongly predicted or negatively predicted, and negatively predicted means what, the one that I have predicted is 0 means the actual class is 1. So here I have to pay how much, minus log of 1 minus 1, that is minus log of 0. So here my value will become infinite. So our whole intention is to pay penalty or to penalize the model whenever we are wrongly predicting, and we should be fine that we should not pay anything when we are correctly predicting. So that was all about our cost function and our sigmoid function, that is logistic function. So I hope this makes sense. The multiple columns, how to multiple classes or only two classes. So we generally, when we say we are identifying our use cases for two classes, it is a binomial. Okay, not binomial, I can say okay, there is some value for saying for classification of for classification when we have only two classes. Okay, so first we are going to import whatever I required, and here I didn't had this, so I am using pip install this function. So I am not using it in the command prompt, and I am trying to use a command to install a library in the Anaconda. That's why I am using exclamation mark. Okay, so this is like one time. Now next I have a diabetes file in my local, so this you can get it from Kaggle. I'll add the link in the description. So from Kaggle, if you don't know, you can Google it. It's like all about data science and ML or prediction thing. Okay, so we can get the data set from the website itself. So from there I got this diabetes where I have pregnancies, glucose, BP, skin, insulins, all this. Okay, based on that I have to predict whether the input that I have given is having a diabetes or not. Okay, so if you want to know more about what is 1, what is 0, that will be given in the metadata from the place where we download, okay, or on the website details. So here 1 means that person is having a diabetes, and 0 means the person doesn't have a diabetes. So this was something that we are able to understand from the data given. Okay, now if you want to know what is the mean, mode, and what is some more information, you can go for data.describe function and many such other functions which we have discussed already. But today's our focus is to get the concept of logistical regression. Now now I need to see. So if you have seen the distribution curve, if okay, let's suppose the category pregnancy. In this we have multiple data, so how the data is distributed. Okay, so for that I am going to plot a graph against all the columns. So I can use a matrix plot, but because here I am having too many columns, you can see 1 2 3 4 5, too many columns. So if there is no need for analyzing everything, then you can go for manually plotting some of the data points or some of the columns of the data which you want to plot. Okay, so here I'm trying to see, okay, for pregnancies this is how the data is distributed, glucose this is how. So the actual or the ideal curve graph is our bell curve graph, so which is like suppose in this format. Okay, I cannot draw on this, fine. Yeah, so it is like an N shaped, actual N shape, but here you can see it is slightly bent towards left, so I can say my data is skewed. Okay, so I need to formalize it such that way, or I need to arrange my data, remove or apply some of the pre-processing techniques so that I could get as much possible as near to bell curve. So what we are going to do is, so you can see we have different types of curve that is like up, away from, very far away from our literal ideal curve, which is a bell curve. Okay, so we are going to see that. Okay, so here what I am doing is, if you can see in BMI we have some values for 0. Okay, we have and in others, okay, here in diabetes pedigree function we have some values of 0. So based on the document given, or based on what does this column means, we can say that okay, this value is not possible, so it means it must be missing. So we are simply replacing those 0 values with either mean or mode. So here I'm not using mode, here I'm using mean, but it's like you can use anything, but based on what should we take the decision. So it's like you can see, so here glucose 148, 85, 183, so it is some kind of value, it is not a class. Okay, so if I wanted to replace something in the outcome, so because it is suppose, okay, so for one of the output I don't have any outcome, so in that case I can either remove it, or either I will replace the outcome of that with the mode of this data, because the most common class that I can find them in the data set is the person is not diabetes, for suppose, then I'll replace the record which doesn't have outcome with 0, saying that the person is not having diabetes. So that is not a recommended thing, that is just an example. So that was class, that was because of that I was going to replace the missing value with the mode, but here it is a continuous value, so in that case I am going to consider the average value or the mean value. Okay, so that's how I am taking a pre-processing step on BMI. Similarly blood pressure and all, so I am simply replacing the 0 in the BMI column with the mean of the BMI column. Okay, so that I am doing for some of the columns where I see that this kind of curves are not good. Okay, and after that I can see there are some of the outliers as well. Okay, so if you don't know outliers, please watch back to previous video. So for that I am plotting a box plot and I am seeing. Okay, so in box plot what I can say is, let me zoom it a bit, I should have done this before. Okay, so in this what I can say is, this is my first quartile, this is my third quartile, this is the maximum value, the upper top line is a maximum value, the bottommost top line is my minimum value. Okay, so here what I'm saying seeing is, okay, let's talk about insulin. So in insulin, after the green box and after this line which is maximum value, I can see some of the points, the dotted things. Okay, so what I'm getting here is, let me, yeah, so here we did the cleaning thing, and here we are plotting. Okay, so here this is the current box plot based on the current data. So I can see that after the maximum value I can see too many dots out of there after the maximum value, so those are nothing but our outliers. So our intention here is to remove those outliers. So what I can do is, okay, so this is my third quartile. If you see the green box, in that green box I'll have my median, and if the data is correctly like it is not skewed data, then I can find my mean and mode, everything within that box, and that is my first quartile and the third quartile, the green top is the top line in the green box is my third quartile, and I can see the maximum value and minimum value. So based on this, I say that because my outliers are above than the maximum value, I need not to consider them. So how can I not consider them? By removing it from the data set. So I can say, if you know the concept of percentage and percentile, if you have an exam of 100 marks and the topper gets 70 marks and you get 69, okay, so here I can say the topper's marks is 70 and his percentage is 70, but his percentage is 100. Why? Because here percentile is nothing but comparison among all the people who participated in the exam, but not with respect to the total marks. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so here I am going to consider only some part of the data and going to remove the other. So here let's suppose for the insulin I have taken 95 percentile, means I am removing the top 5 percentile of the data. Like it will how it removes is, it will arrange the data in the increasing order, and it will consider only the first 95% of data points. So that's how I am removing some of the data points which lies between the 96 percentile to 100 percentile. So that I am applying to all the other values. Now you can say how I came to know that I have to use only 95 percentile, because in some I have used 98 percentile, and some I have used 99 percentile. So that I can consider come to a conclusion based on two things. One is the points. Okay, so here I can see only 1 point. Okay, so what does that mean? That there is a very less outlier, which is a less number of outliers present in the skin thickness. So for skin thickness I am taking 99 percentile of data. For insulin there is too many points above the maximum data, that is too many outliers. So for insulin I am going to consider 95 percentile. But this is not the only thing. After you remove the outliers, you can plot it again. Okay, so after you plot it again, you can see now, okay, now you can say still I have too many points, right? So what is it that this function did for us? So it removed outliers, but I am able to see this current graph on a different scale. So let's go to our previous graph, and you can see previously my outliers were reaching from the 800, 600, 400 in the insulin. Now I have removed too many outliers, and I can see it is 300, 250 and 200. So a lot of the outliers are removed. So what you can do is, should I remove more or not? So that you can consider based on the accuracy or stability and the other metrics that we are going to see in the stats. So okay, so based on that you can take decision whether I should remove more outliers, or should I use some different method for analyzing. So what is that I should do? So that you can come to a conclusion based on the metrics. Okay, so this is our focus is to understand logistic regression. So that's why we remove some of the outliers, and next we are going to consider that as our data, and we are going to create a model out of this data. Okay, so after this, if you can see in my data.head, I can see that pregnancy to age is what my input features are. So based on that I need to predict outcome. So I am considering all this input as my x and the outcome as my y. Okay, so after that division I am going to do the standard scaling. So what this means is, if you don't do this, still you can go for predicting, that is fine. But if you have seen the concept of normalization, here pregnancy's scale lies between, like it is in a single digit, glucose is in a triple digit, now blood pressure in a double digit, and on the scale of 40 to 70, skin thickness is on the scale of 23 to 35. So I can see each category is lying between a different scale. Okay, so it is okay, fine, I can predict, but the more we bring them to a common scale, the more it is better for understanding of the model. Okay, or I can say the learning process will be smoothened. So for that I am simply applying the standardized scaling thing on the x attributes, that is from the pregnancies to age functions. So you can say that while training I am use the same scale, and while predicting also I'm going to use the same scale. So that's how my output is not going to affect based on what normalization I'm applying on the input features. Okay, so here I applied that. After saying this, I can say that okay, I'm done with all my pre-processing and the normalization. Now the columns that I have and the data that my column have, is there any multicollinearity between them? Because if yes, then I can remove some of those columns, or I can merge, or I can do other things to remove that multicollinearity or reduce the multicollinearity, because that is again going to act as an obstacle for the learning sake. Okay, so that I am checking with the VIF, which is nothing but a variance inflation factor. So if you want to know what is VIF, so it is kind of a correlation thing which gives us the relation between the different attributes. Now if you have known the concept of correlation, we try to remove the correlation between the input features so as to remove the obstacles or simplify the learning process. Okay, so it ranges from like 0 to 10. So if it is 0 means there is no relation, if it is 10 means there is absolute clear relation, directly proportional or indirect proportional. So here I can say it is like 1 or nearly 1. So I can say it is very much lesser than 5. Okay, very much lesser than 5 means there is no collinearity, so I am good. So suppose there is a BMI whose value is 7. So I can say it is an attribute which is having multicollinearity. Then I am going to find with which column does it have the collinearity by using Pearson or any other attributes, and I am going to take action on that. But as of now I can see all of them are near to 1, so I can conclude that there is no correlation, so I am good with my column features. So now the pre-processing is done. Let me distribute my data. Okay, if you don't know the random state, that is fine. It's like the only statement that I can say based on that is everything that is random is not actually random. Okay, even the random numbers are coming in some pattern. Okay, yeah. So here I basically distributed my x, that is my input feature, and y features into 4. So x train, x text, y train, y test. So for training I am going to use the x train as my input and y train as my output. Similarly for predicting I am going to use my x test, out of which I am going to get my predicted value, and that predicted value I am going to compare with the y test to identify what percentage of accuracy, whether it is correctly classified or not. Okay, so that's how I distributed it, and now I am getting an instance of logistic regression, and with the fit I am simply triggering the learning process. Okay, so once this is done, I am simply saving this model. Okay, now logistic will take a second or so, but if I am going for neural networks and a big thing, then it is going to take too many I can say hours as well. So in between it is better to have a checkpoints, but here I am saving it so that I can use this model in my any kind of application for the prediction purpose. So here with the pickled num I am saving my model. What happened? Yeah, this is my model, and so I'm going to save this model, and I'm predicting. So this is my x test which I thought of using for predicting, and out of that I'm going to get my predicted value, and I'm going to compare my predicted value with the actual value. Okay, so that's how we are getting our what happened. Yeah, sorry, yeah, my bad. This is the model. Okay, yeah, so I got predicted value and I have actual value, so I can see how much correctly I have classified. So it's a 77%. Okay, so this much percentage of data that I have correctly classified. Now confusion matrix, if you have seen in the previous video, we have discussed what is confusion matrix, what is the type 1 error, what is the type 2 error. So if you can see true positive, false negative, true negative, so it is a 2 by 2 matrix which we are getting from the confusion matrix. So based on this we can find out precision, recalls, accuracy, so all these things for stability purpose, and one of them is the F1 score. So F1 score is nothing but, if you have seen the concept of trade-off between the precision and recall, this is the F1 score which gives us the how stable our model is. So I can say my stability model is 74 and my accuracy is this much. So if this is not the expected value, we are going to do much more pre-processing techniques and we are going to improve it. Okay, because we can see, okay, this is the matrix currently I am having and I am not satisfied with this, so I can go for further pre-processing. So that's all about the logistic regression. If you have any queries with the stats or the concept, please write down in the comment section, and if you liked my explanation, please do subscribe and share. So that's it for today. Thank you.